Okay, so we've waited 5 minutes, so I think everyone that has the time should have joined the webinar so far. So hello again, my name is Julian Sanderman. I'm a solutions advisor at Boyum IT, and I am located in Germany. And today we will show you a webinar about the APS flow and also about the Gantt viewer. So this webinar, it's part of a series. So last week we had our production flow and master data, today the APS, and in the next week we will continue with the basic MRP. Then we'll go on to the web apps, internal and external maintenance, project management, and the last webinar will be the usability extension with Beas Manufacturing. So if you haven't signed up for the other ones, feel free to also sign you up for the other webinars. So the APS is standing for Advanced Planning and Scheduling. So what is the tool doing? It helps you to optimize the production and also to keep track of the material. And so it gives you a better overview about all the stuff that is going on there. Of course, you can have different scenarios and you can work with it to minimize the production lead times and yeah, so that you don't have operational loss and that you can really great yeah, that you have a great opportunity to work with this tool. So what is the APS doing? With the Gantt viewer that is integrated in it, you have a really nice visibility. So you can really see what is going on which resource, on what day, where is my work order. Maybe I have an interruption at some stage, so I need to reschedule the next operations on it, and the tool can really help you with that to improve the productivity. And of course, if it's improved, you can also reduce the cost. So for production planning, of course, the tool is based on demand forecast, and the APS system is generating a production plan. It is outlined for the quantity and also the timing of the production orders and also for the work orders. For the resource, the APS system analyzes all the available resources. So if there's an interruption or a planned maintenance, the tool will always take a look at it and can reschedule something. And of course, if there's also the equipment not ready for it or the material is a little bit late, you can plan it with the tool. So it's more detailed than the MRP one. For the scheduling, there's a detailed production schedule, and yeah, of course, these can be automated, and yeah, of course, I can also work with factors in there. So is the machine availability, is my worker ready, and of course, also capacity is scheduled from the APS. So it's not planning with, yeah, let's say 200% on my resource. It's limiting it to 100%. Or even if I want to go a bit down, I can set it up that it will run with 90%. The Gantt viewer, like mentioned, it's a graphical tool where you can see all your work orders depending on the view. Maybe it's on the resource, maybe in the work order tool. And of course, you can also work with that one. So you can drag and drop your work orders and change it in detail. But we will take a look at that later when we go on with our online demo. And adjustments and also the rescheduling. That's a big point for the APS. So if anything happens, an interruption or the material is late, or I need a second shift, or I can move it to a different machine to finish the product sooner, I can easily change that. And I can also mass update lots of work orders. So if I have an interruption on one machine, I don't need to check every 20, 30 work orders that are on the machine. I can just select all of these and move them over to a different machine, or I can change the date on it. But we will also see that in our live demo later. So the benefits from the APS, we can backward and forward plan to consider the capacity limit of the resource. So forward, starting at the soonest production date. So for example, I have all the material in stock, I plan it forward, and it will give me my soonest production date. Backwards, it will give me my latest production date. So backwards has a good point on keeping your stock low, because you don't have the work already done. But of course, forward is also a good reason to have it really finished in time. Of course, we can automatic plan it with different scenarios, and we can also run some optimization of the resources. Maybe I can put some work orders together so I can save the setup time on it, or I can also move it to a resource group. Like mentioned before, I can mass change or update work orders, so I can change the delivery time of it, I can change the start date, or I can also change production dates. So I can say, hey, maybe there's something wrong with the material, so I can unrelease it. So even if the work order is already in the production, I can stop it from being reported so that I can really take a look at it. I can work with different automatic planning tools, and I can set something up that is working with priorities so that I can prioritize urgent or high priorities. I can work with material checks. Is the material really there, or is it maybe late, so I need to reschedule it? And there are lots of settings. And of course, I also have the graphical planning tool, so the Gantt viewer, which we will see later, or actually in the next slide. So this is the Gantt viewer. We will see it in our live system later. It's a visual overview about what is going on. Here we see one work order, which is connected. So there are 4 different work steps that I need to fulfill. And in the latest step, I can only start when the other 3 are fulfilled. So when I have an interruption at, let's say, position 20, so 2010, then I would need to reschedule the latest operation. And the tool can help me with it. And of course, it can automate it. So let's take a look at our system. Just close that PowerPoint. Yeah, all good. So what we see here is my local machine. In the background, we have the B1 up running, which performs with some dashboards and some usability functions, which is also quite handy. So if you have interest in that, don't hesitate to ask us about that one. So about the APS. So everything is located in my capacity planning. I have my APS. I will start with the APS calculation types first. So we have an overview about what we can set up. And you see, I can set up different calculation types up here. And of course, this is not limited, so I can easily create a new one that really fits my needs. So let's just open the first one and expand everything. So we will see, of course, we need a description and that stuff. And here we have the first setting, material check. should this calculation type check the material? I can set it up to no, or before scheduling, by scheduling, or before and by scheduling. So it will check if the material is really there. And of course, if I just plan for the next day, for example, I really want to be sure that the material is there. If I have a different scenario that is looking in the future in 2 months or something, I don't need to check on the material. So I have really lots of settings here. I can set it up to forward or backwards, of course. I can also consider the capacity limits. And of course, I can set up some transit time. So there's lots of settings up there so that I can really fit the tool for my needs. So let's take a look at the APS. So like mentioned, I can set up different scenarios. I have my default one and the resource one. So these two are always set up when I start the add-on, but I can also create my personal ones. So if I take a look at this one, it's high priority. Oh, I wanted to start with the settings first, sorry. I can see what I can set up. So I can set up the tool to look in the future. So for my, it's just a default 90 days, but it could also be that I want to plan even longer, maybe for the next year. I can make some sortings in here so that I just want to see a specific project, or that I want to really only want to see work orders with high priority or urgent ones. That's what I've done here. So I can, really have an own scenario for each type that I need. Maybe for production type, also for item material groups and so on. I can also work with SQL filters. And a good thing that we really got back from the shop floor, that we can hide printed ones. So once a work order is printed, it's maybe somewhere out in the shop floor, and I don't want to change something on that one, because otherwise I need to reprint the paper, which paper is the latest one. So I can just check this one, and then it will hide all printed ones, also the active ones or locked ones. Like mentioned, we can execute it in the foreground or in the background, or we can ask for it. And of course, the scenario can be also run by our service job. So my live system, it doesn't have that much data, but on some customers, which has lots of data and lots of complex work orders, the scenario calculation will take some time. So you just set up the job to start it at the night. And when you take a look at it in the morning, everything is up to date, so you don't have to calculate it on your own. So the next thing would be the resources. We can select which resource we want to see in this scenario. Maybe I just want to take a look at some of them, but in my case, I selected all of them. Can set up different views if I need to. And of course, I have the calculation types that I created before. And I can also connect these to different ones. So I can, where's my cursor? It's not there. I can select the ones that I want to see in this scenario. Maybe someone won't need a forward with optimization in that scenario. So I will just leave that out so I can really fit it for my needs. So let's open just a high priority one. And we should see that there's just one work order in there. For my demo, I will work with the default one, but here you can see it's just document 20 that's in there. So if I open the default one, we see that we have a bunch of work orders in here, also number 20, that is on a high priority. And what do we see here? We have different settings here. We can open the Gantt viewer from here. We can filter on the resources. So maybe I just want to plan with one resource. No, sorry, wrong button. We can filter. We can also mark all of these. So whenever I mark everything that is set up by default here, all those are marked. They will be considered for calculation, or also if I change the delivery date on it. So let's just mark all and unmark them. And it's basically like in Windows, if you just hit Control and select some of these, you can mark them or unmark them. Or you can also work with the checkbox. So nice thing is the mass change or mass update of work orders. So let's say these three here, it's one maintenance order and two normal work orders. I see that the start date, well, it's on today because the end date should be tomorrow. So delivery date is really way behind. So let's just update the delivery date so that it will be fine again. I spoke to the customer and everything should be fine. So let's just update it to this date. And yes, the process should start. And we see we updated the delivery date. We can recalculate it. Calculation is set up for forward. And we see now my delivery date is not red anymore because the work orders should finish on time. So I have the setting here that I can block, plan, or print the work orders. So this one has the start fix, for example. So if I go on, those three are selected. I can also easily block them. Yes, so then they are blocked, so I can't use them anymore. Oh, I could also release them. Sorry. So you see I have a bunch of mass update settings here where I can really terminate a lot of the functions that I normally do each one by one. Same for assembly. I can block it in the MRP. I can scheduling the block. I can block the time received, also the posting. And of course, I can also release them. In the reports, of course, I have my shortage reports, my material requirements. So if I open this one, it will just open my material requirement, and I, of course, can create a purchase request or an order from it. I can also issue the material so that it will get connected to that work order. Nice thing is also the pool. So whenever I'm finished with the planning, I can push these work orders over to my pool so that on the shop floor with our terminals, the shop floor workers can work with it. So the pool will, with APS, will be only APS, so there's not the normal work orders in there. So whenever I push over my APS work orders, it's only them, and then they are also in the list that it's sorted up here. So if I change something to be in my first line, those will be also that one that is in my first line in my pool list. So let's go back to scheduling and we can scroll over a bit. So the start structure and start time and end time, that's the time that my APS calculated, and it will level my resources. So it's not that it's saying you have 200% capacity, it's only 100%, and it's also considering my shifts. So that's why my end date is more realistic than that one that my MRP is giving me. I also mentioned the material. So material check is set to up in my default scenario. And here I see, hey, the material is okay, so it's in stock, and I can work with it. Maybe here I see, hey, the material, it will be too late, so I will need to reschedule this one. And of course, I can change my Windows settings to my needs. So if I'm not caring about the material check, I can change this one. You see, there's a lot of functions, and I haven't even activated all of these. Okay. No, we don't want to save this one. So let's take a look at our Gantt viewer. So that it's more easy to see what's in the Gantt viewer. I only use my work order 18. I could also work with all, but that will be a bunch of work orders in there, and it can be a bit overflowing, yeah, for the first look. So we will just open this one. Just opening on my second screen. I will just pull it over once it is loaded. Just 1 second. Okay. So here is my work order. Just open it. So what we see here is I have my view. I can change the time area. I can change it how detailed the view should be. Should it be in days? Then it is a bit more, yeah, more not that detailed like in hours, but it always depends on the production. Maybe some work orders, they are for more than 1 day, so it makes sense to have it as a daily one, also on a monthly base. But for our example, we will stay at the hours one. In the view, I can change it also to resource. So if I just want to take a look at the resource, sorry, let's undo this one. I can see what is going on at which resource. But because we only have one work order, that view is fine for me. So other settings here, of course, I can calculate it. I can undo my last action. I can calculate just the order that I've selected. I can also change the date up here. I can set it to planned so that it's in my pull list. I can also check on the assembly, like before in the APS. I can give me the shortage report, the material requirement, also the inventory history. On the operation, I can select it, or I can also fix it so that it's not movable anymore. And also for the resource, I can jump in it. I can see if I want a utilization of it, or also if I want to see different resources. So let's open this position. So what we see here on top, we have just that one work order that we have selected with the different routing positions. So I have, in total 4 routing positions and with 3 different sub-assemblies. So the system calculated that the latest operation, my quality check, that it can be soonest be started on Tuesday noon. So if we take a look at that middle screen, it shows me my capacity of my resource, and we see, hey, that is limited to the real work hours that it has. So it's not 200% or more, it's 100%. So my shift starts at 6, and on Friday we will stop at I think it's 12, and I only have this capacity up there. So if I scroll on, we can see it here. Sorry, that the whole Monday will be consumed by that position. So that's a bit too long for me. So let's just reschedule it to a different resource. Or in my case, I will just pull it over to my group so that I can run it on several resources. So I will just drag this and drop it at my resource. And we will now see that I will finish it on Monday at 11 a.m. So I've saved nearly 1 day. And now I could also move over my quality check so that I can start earlier with it. So that's a great tool to really reschedule something. And also if there would be an interruption on one machine, I can also reschedule it by here. Also, the tool could help me to automate it. So yes, that's basically a short presentation of the APS. The Q&A was already opened, but feel free to also use it now. And I think the microphones are also allowed now. So you are also able to ask questions directly. So yeah, thank you for your attention, and yeah, feel free to ask questions.